18-year Major League veteran Al Oliver played for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Texas Rangers, Montreal Expos, San Francisco Giants, Philadelphia Phillies, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Toronto Blue Jays. Now he has stepped up to the plate once again and is serving the Lord.
Al Oliver played professional baseball for 22 years, 18 of those in the major leagues. He lost his mom at 11, and the day he found out he'd been called up to the majors, his dad died. He had the inner strength to raise his younger sister and 12-year-old brother. Al is a dynamic, public, and motivational speaker with a real heart to help others. Al, how did you get started in professional baseball?
In 1964, I was a graduate of Portsmouth High School. And at that time, in May of 1964, what I had done, I signed a basketball scholarship to go to Kent State University. And then all of a sudden, I changed my mind. I went to a pirate tryout camp. I looked pretty good down there. And as a result of that, you know, my dad, who was an ordained deacon, he said, okay, you could go. But I had to get a release from my junior American Legion coach. And so once he signed it, he said, well, Al, I'm gonna sign it. Very reluctant to sign because he said, you won't be back.
You actually just went down and walked on and tried out for the Pittsburgh Pirates at 17 years of age? Amazing.
And so I went down and signed, and Dad was always concerned about me getting a college education. So in the contract that I signed with the Pirates, a college education was included. But in fine print, if I stayed out of college for 2 years, it was nullified. And so that did happen. But I could not have signed with a better team. It was a better fit for me. And what they were concerned about, and what was easy in the Pirate organization, they had a lot of black players and a lot of Latin players, where some of the other teams did not. So it was a perfect fit for me. Very aggressive hitters, guys who had tremendous abilities, who could have easily got lost in the shuffle, but they liked something about me.
Al, you came up at a time when, you know, there was a lot of racial tension going on in America. Did you face a lot of discrimination when you came into professional baseball?
And I remember in 1965, I made the All-Star team in the Western Carolina League. Now, I never will forget this because Sparky Anderson, as we all know, who was the manager of the Cincinnati Reds later on, but he was the manager of Rock Hill, South Carolina, and he picked me on the All-Star team. So all of a sudden, I had to go to the restroom. So I go to the restroom and I look around and it said white and colored. First time I've ever seen that in my life. I'd heard about that, you know, when I was in high school and all that, the integration and segregation and all that, but I saw it. But it didn't matter to me at that time. I had to go pay a water bill. So I went on in there anyway.
Yeah.
And so, but that was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. And so those things did happen. Of course, on occasions, you know, you might get a few cat calls, you know, from the stands, but that was part of it. I didn't like it because I wasn't used to it, but I adjusted, you know. If I did hear a bad word, you know, I try to hit the ball just a little bit harder.
But did any of that stuff affect you as you were coming up?
No, and I think the reason why was my dad, being from Montgomery, Alabama, he never ever talked about race. And so he allowed me to go out into the world and find out for myself. And I did. I found out that, hey, we all are human. And so I was just as good as anyone. Not saying I was better, but as a person, I was just as good as anyone. So that was instilled in me when I was young. So I never was intimidated by other people of different races or cultures or whatever. And I'm the same way to this day. You know, I always look at people as people.
Right.
And I'm glad that I was raised the way that I was, because if I had not, I'd have been an angry young man.
Al, what were some of the highlights of being a professional baseball player?
Well, of course, my first Major League base hit was against the Cincinnati Reds. But I have to admit, my first Major League at bat, I struck out against the Cincinnati Reds. So I made my major league debut against the Reds, September the 23rd, 1968. And that was a big thrill. It was a bittersweet time for me because I had just left Portsmouth, my dad's funeral.
Oh.
I lost my dad the same day I found out that I was going to be called up to the major leagues. So I was playing in Columbus, Ohio at that time. So I had to come home and make, plans and things, for his funeral. But, that was one of the highlights of my career, was in my first base hit. Definitely the 1971 World Series, playing with the late, great Roberto Clemente. He led us almost on his back to a 1971 World Championship. Each one of our players did just a little bit each game, but he made sure that we weren't going to lose. And we went up against a tough team, the Baltimore Orioles, who that year had 4 20-game winners. They gave us no shot. But they forgot that we had a great, young, confident team, guys who felt they could hit anybody.
Yeah.
But Roberto was there, and Sturgill was upcoming. So we had so much confidence. We had as much confidence in us because we had won in the minor leagues as Roberto had, as Sturgill had. Mazeroski was still there. He was a year shy of retiring. But those were the kind of leaders that we had. We didn't need much leadership. We just needed the players to just guide us and show us the way to go, and they did. And I always looked at Roberto Clemente. He led me as a Major League Baseball player, but my dad led me as a human being. 1982, I was fortunate enough to win a batting championship with the Montreal Expos. From a personal standpoint, that was a great season where I led the league in 5 offensive categories. And so those are the 2 things that will always stand out. Number 1, the 1971 World Championship, because we won. And that's what it's all about, is winning.
Have you ever been knocked down by the circumstances of life? Life can be brutally tough sometimes. Ask me how I know? Well, I've been knocked down in a boxing ring in the middle of a boxing match. I've had the breath knocked out of me in a football game, and that didn't feel good. And when I was 6 or 7 years of age and was a helpless child, I had a man sexually assault me in a bathroom stall. All of that was very painful. But none of it was as painful as losing my first wife to cancer in 2001. I was so low, I was so depressed that I actually contemplated suicide. And someone once said, you may not be somebody in this world, but to somebody you are the world, so don't quit. And you see, my daughter and my granddaughter were still alive, and I knew that they needed me, and that gave me the strength to carry on. Friend, I don't care what you're going through. I don't care how many times you've been knocked down. I don't care how much pain you've suffered. There is hope and there is help for you. We have a group of men here, and if you're battling some issue today, some pain, you want to throw in a towel, you want to quit, you want to chuck it all, I want you to call us and help us talk you through this, and let us help you. The number's right here on the screen. Give us a call today and let us help you overcome whatever you're going through.